be amazed when you stand in a line and you're actually talking to people how much they tell you, because all guards are off. They're not sitting in a counsellor's room. They're not sitting where they're accountable to someone. You're just someone that they're talking to while they're waiting for food. And the stories are phenomenal.
This is Down to Earth Conversations, where we hear from ordinary people who are helping to bring a bit of heaven down to earth. Kia ora koutou e te Down to Earth Conversations whānau, nau mai haere mai and māna watia a Matariki. Happy Māori New Year and welcome to another episode of Down to Earth Conversations. Thanks for joining me. I have nearly no voice from the flu, so I'm just going to crack right into it today. Stuart Ennor is a former youth worker who now, alongside his wife Sarah, runs Kairos Food Rescue here in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, which includes the Kairos Free Store. We talk about how the Free Store started, how he became involved, and how it's changed in its short life. We hear stories of people whose lives have been changed in remarkable ways through this organisation that simply offers free food to those who need it. And we hear about Stuart's desire that people would always be the centre of what they do. This is episode 51 of Down to Earth Conversations. Here's Stuart Ennor. I'm here today with Stuart Ennor. Kia ora, Stuart.
Kia ora. Thank you for having us.
Let's start by just getting you to introduce yourself for the listeners. Who are you? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So I say I was born in Auckland, bred in Canterbury, so I've got the best the best side of some things. But I grew up a lot of my life in Christchurch as a kid, and now married here. Got a wife. Got two of our own beautiful children, and we've also got a foster child or home for life. So 3 kids in the house, all under, one's at school and the other preschool and a toddler. So that's pretty cool, and it's just great having opening our home up to other young people to that may not have had those opportunities that we can offer. So yeah. Was
that something you were always interested in, or how did
something
that come
my wife's always been interested in, and when I met her, I really sensed that as a thing, and it's just been an amazing journey. It's been over the last 2.5 years doing all the courses with on Tamariki, and then also having another young lad come into our house every second weekend, and then this opportunity came up, so we took it. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And you're currently, we're here to talk today about Kairos Food Rescue, but what was your kind of background before that?
Yeah, so background of youth work, and also I've driven trucks before and different things like that, but a qualified youth worker is my sort of core thing. Yeah. Yep.
Had you thought that was going to be like your ongoing thing, or was it that was while you were a bit younger, that was what you were going to do, and then you were going to branch into something else?
I've done youth work beside other things, like driven trucks to subsidise being able to be a youth worker. Obviously, that's not an industry that pays super well, or a lot of sustainability, because it's often so relying on funding.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy I suppose what I really get a kick out of in life is providing an opportunity for people to have a hand up. And when they have that aha moment, they suddenly get something that they needed to get. That's probably where I really enjoy that. So being a youth worker and seeing someone get that aha moment when they've realised that maybe the way they're doing something is not going to get them far in life and things like that, and they realise they've got to shift that, and that sort of, I really enjoy that. So yeah,
that's cool too, because it's not about you giving them stuff and changing their life. It's about you being part of their journey while they figure that out, isn't it?
That's right.
When they get an aha moment, it's about them learning and them growing, but you're there with them while they do it, which is...
I think you'll see that as we talk today, and it's the old thing, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. We want to give people a hand up, not a hand out, and so it's for them to find that moment, it's for them to, but you can present them opportunities to find it.
So Kairos Well, it started off as Kairos Free Store, Kairos Food Rescue.
Yeah, yep.
How did it start?
Yeah, so it started by a lady, Beth Hutt, and she worked in the cafes. She was a cafe manager for over 10 years in a big cafe in the city here in Christchurch. And she literally put some scones in the rubbish bin one day and then was walking home, walked past some people, started talking to them, realised that one of the issues for them was that they were hungry. And I say one of the issues because we often find food mass issues behind what's going on. But she went, oh, I've just thrown those scones out. They would have been perfect. And so that's where it grew from. And so our name means unique and opportune moment. It's a Greek word. You've got chronos, which is sequential time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sequential, whereas kairos is the unique and opportune moment. And so we talk about that as being a unique and opportune moment. And funnily enough, that just keeps filtering through the life of kairos. We continuously have these unique and opportune moments that are just, how did that happen? You know, or how did these all connect? You know, I would go further to say sometimes it's actually a God moment, but that's, you know, but for Kairos perspective, we talk about that unique and opportune moment. And so then 9 months later, she had a team together. She had a shipping container donated. She had aluminium windows cut and put into the side of it, the container cut out and the windows put in. A whole lot of builders' time, all donated, and that container got put at 311 Sanassa Street, where it still is today. And it's open 2 times a week at the moment. We're just short on volunteers with COVID and that sort of thing. And from 5:30 at night, anyone can come along. No questions asked. We don't ask how much you earn. We don't ask any questions at all. And you can get some food. And we have all walks of life coming there, from families to people who do live on the street, to people who are financially under hardship, right through to, we have a lawyer that comes down sometimes and he likes just the realness of people. So we get a whole mix of people. Anyone can come. Yep.
Was that, like, I imagine that COVID trashed that whole thing a little bit? Like,
yeah, it did. Look, we've tried lots of different things. So we've done a bit like the supermarket click and collect. We've literally, you've walked past us, we've handed you a bag of food. Whereas normally you'd go in a line of people and you would actually pick some items.
Right, you'd come in and choose it yourself.
Yeah, and so we talk about getting enough food for you and your family for today. It's not like a food parcel that's going to last your family a week or 4 days. It's enough to get you through the next couple of days. So most people walk away with a wee bag of food rather than box loads of food. But with the COVID, different times we've done different things. Unfortunately, in the recent lot with this Oricon, we've actually had to shut that part of it down. It was just becoming too hard to get people to stand so far apart and different things. And also we had to be careful with our organisation, with our limited staff, that if there's 2 parts to our operation. There's the free store part where we get the food from the cafe, and there's also this part where we get food in bulk and it arrives in trucks to our warehouse. We break it down to smaller amounts, and that goes out to over 22 other food banks in the city. It also goes to some preschools and kindergartens and things like that. And so for us, we had to go, okay, that feeds a lot of people, whereas the free store feeds some people. And as important as it is to us, we had to make a call what we were going to keep running. And so we had to shut the free store. But it's all open again now. Cool. People are back, and it's so good to see people. It's just so nice, because that's where the relationship building happens. That's where we connect with people. That's where the food becomes a tool. People get attracted, and then we can connect with them and work through things from there.
I was talking to my wife about it last night, and I said, I've got an inkling that there's going to be a relational element to this, that this isn't about just handing out food and hoping people will be okay. That actually, like, just from the little clips I've seen of you, you know, you seem like the sort of person who actually wants to get to know people.
So from some other food groups around New Zealand, and when I'm on a national food rescue board, and when we get to sit in those bigger spaces with other people, other organisations, they go, how do you know so much about your people? We don't, and we do the same as you. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So we delved in, why do we? And I think there's 2 parts to, you know, food rescue is, you've got the fact that you're rescuing food, you're saving food that could be it's edible and not going the rest. There's all the whole emissions and the whole side of rubbish dumps and methane and all that, you're stopping that. And some people come from that angle, but for me personally, I come from it's the Maori proverb, what is the most important thing?
Yeah.
Tangata, he tangata. It's the people. And so probably as leading this organisation, I've driven more it from that perspective than the food rescue, but the food rescue is our tool to reach the people. You'd be amazed when you stand in a line, and this is what I've said to some of these other groups, when you stand in a line and you're actually talking to people, how much they tell you when they're waiting in line for food, because all guards are off.
Yeah, right.
They're not sitting in a counsellor's room. They're not sitting where they're accountable to someone.
Yeah.
You're just someone that they're talking to while they're waiting for food.
Yeah.
And the stories, it's phenomenal that we get told. They just open up. They literally just open up this can of worms and tell you everything. And so if you're listening to that, you then realise, hey, look, I know someone, I hear you talking about that, you've got problems with the money and the debt and the debt collectors and different things. I know someone who might be able to help you with that. Would you be open to having a discussion? And that's where we connect people into a budgeting service or a counselling service or other services that are in the city. We don't do those things. We're not good at those things, but we can connect them. And so sometimes it's even a conversation. Would you like me to go with you to meet this guy? Would you like me to set up a coffee?
Because that can be a huge barrier, right? That if you're just going, hey, I'll set it up and you go, there's the nerves of this is a new person, like I don't know this person, can I trust them? Whereas if they've already built some sort of connection with you and you're going with them, that just takes away a whole lot of the barrier for them, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They know that you're just there walking with them. And I think, there's a saying, it says, don't run in front of me, I may not keep up. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Just take my hand and walk beside me as a friend. And I think that's what we try and do with people. And look, we're not setting up Kairos to convert people to Christianity. It's not actually our intention. Our intention is to see people better than where they were when they came in. And that's not trying to put anyone down saying that they're in a bad position either, but we can all be better at what we do. It doesn't matter what we do, we can all be better.
That genuineness is really important, because so often people have these good ideas, but then there's like a bait and switch, where people think they're coming in for food and suddenly they're being evangelized to, or or they think they're coming in and suddenly you're coercing them into counselling or whatever, whereas you sound like it's a really relational process of, hey, this is here if you want it, otherwise grab your food, all good.
And I think that comes back to, if you put a sign up and say free food, you'll get every man, his dog, his auntie, his brother, his mother, everyone will come.
People love free food.
Exactly. And Christchurch statistically is one of the easiest places in New Zealand to get food. Right. Over other places in New Zealand. There's so many groups that want to be involved in it and do it. There's almost too many. We're oversaturated. There's so many groups like, we should feed the poor. Let's start up a food bank just down the road. And what they don't realise is 3 doors down there's actually another one. And it's one of the things we're doing in the Christchurch Food Bank Network is we're trying to get everyone to sort of recognise we're all unique and special in what we do. We all come to this from a different angle. But realistically, we don't all need to be all doing it in a particular suburb in Christchurch. And actually make sure that we're all spreading across the city and we're all looking after areas that we feel called to. And so we're starting to see quite a shift in Canterbury with just some of that. I was a point a while back where every week we were getting a phone call from, we just started a food bank, can we come and get food off you guys? And we're like, well, who are you? What do you want to do? What area you're in? And literally, we go, do you know there's actually one 3 doors down from you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we know that, but we don't like the way they do it. And it's like, well, why don't you guys all get in a room together and sort it out? Because we're not going to supply food to 2 groups that are 3 doors apart from each other. Because you're going to do the same thing, and all you're going to do is get someone to go to you, and then they're going to come down the road and go to the others.
Yeah.
So,
I think we experienced a little bit of that when I was working in a church. And we would have people say to us, do you have a food bank here? And we kind of went, well, no, because there are so many good organisations already doing that, and we don't have the capacity. Like, we could try, but then we're just going to do a dismal job of something other people are doing well anyway. So it was our policy was to refer people on, and the same thing. It's like, well, I can take you somewhere if you know, and we had some finance for being able to, give people some vouchers for Countdown or those kind of things. But it really was about going, let's not try and replicate what's already happening. Let's just support the people that are already doing that, and and also we'd get people come to us for help, and then we'd ring up some of the food places we knew to see if we could get support, and they said, oh, actually, they've already had X amount, and we've said no more at the moment. And then you're like, okay, well, that's a problem, And
I think that's a big thing because a lot of traditional food bank models is you go to that food bank, you get food off them, and especially the bigger ones, after a while they'll say, right, we're not going to give you any more unless you engage in our budgeting service, or unless you engage in our family service, or unless you... And that's because these food banks have identified there's an issue going on for that family.
Yeah.
And this is where I talk about food masking a problem.
Yeah.
If they keep giving food, it just keeps hiding that problem. But now this problem's reared its head. Let's deal with it and let's help people. Some people don't want help.
Yeah.
So they'll just go, okay, and they'll go off to the next food bank and the next
and
food
those
bank.
are the people that we were getting.
And that's exactly what happens, and that's what I kind of say about hanging the sign up saying free food. So what we're trying to do is find a way that the people are really looking after people in their area and building those relationships, because only through relationships that things change for people. And there's some people who are, I would say, professional food bankers. I don't know if that's a term, but they literally know how many they can get out of this group, and then they know how many. And so some people challenge us and say, well, you guys are giving away free food. Why are you guys actually, you're just as bad as us in some ways? And we're like, well, what we're trying to do is give people a hand up, and our intention is to get to know people, but in a different, like it's a bit like the taxi model and the Uber model. They both get you from A to B, but the taxi you're paying on a meter, whereas the Uber you know how much you paid beforehand. But Uber's kind of taken a big dig on the taxi industry. It's the same with restaurants and the fast food. What do you call it? The home delivery, Uber Eats and things like that. The Airbnb is another example. And so I kind of say sometimes, well, the model we've got is a bit like the Uber model. We're a bit different. We don't require people to engage in something, but we might have people come for 3 years before something changes. But we hope that it will,
And there's good things about both models, isn't there? And so it's not about going, that one's bad, this one's good. It's going, well, they're doing that, let's do something different. And then you're kind of covering both bases.
Yeah. I think it was really highlighted during the very first COVID lockdown. People were just ringing around. They were panicking. And let's be fair, we haven't been in a lockdown in New Zealand really before, not in my lifetime that I know of, And so people were panicking. There was a bit of panic. We'll give that. But they were literally ringing around, I need a food parcel. I need a food parcel. I don't know. I can't get out. I'm too scared to get out. There was a lot of fear and that sort of thing. And literally what we saw is the Salvation Army would drive up the drive in their van, deliver a food parcel, and as it was trying to back down the drive, the City Mission van drove up the drive and just about drove into the back of it. And then as the City Mission van drove away, another van drove up the drive, and one of our vans or whatever, and sometimes you'd deliver a food parcel to people, and they'd open the door and they'd be kicking the other food parcel that's just been delivered before you to the side so you didn't kind of see it.
Yeah, right.
And I was just like, this is real interesting. And we had the privilege with where we were working with 3 or 4 other trusts. It would all come into a central point when we were packing them, and suddenly we'd start seeing different name but same address, or the same phone number but the address next door.
Right, yeah.
So people knew how to work the system.
Yeah.
And it was like, you don't need 3 food parcels delivered today, And so I think that sort of gave us, a lot of us in this, an idea that we need to work together a lot more, collaborate a lot more. And I mean, there's personal details. We've got to be very careful with that. We're in Privacy Act, and we all very are. We don't share those details, but we can actually come up with really good ways to not make it harder to get food, but just make sure the food gets spread further across the place,
Because it's not about trying to tell people they can't, is it? It's about trying to get more people able to have it rather than some people hoarding it. Backing up a little bit, how did you personally get involved in Kairos?
Yeah, so I was Beth had got Kairos going and had been running for a year, and then she fell in love and got married and moved to Nelson, and there's another whole story happening there with Beth, which is really cool. But we got asked by the church, would we look at taking Kairos on for a little bit, and we really thought we'd be there for 5 minutes. We didn't think about this, where we are at now. And so we said yes, and we met with Beth, and there was no trust or anything established at that point, so we spent a lot of time actually forming a charitable trust, and sort of setting it up. And so that's sort of 3 years now, I think it's been. We've grown phenomenally since then. We've found a lot of favour with funding agencies and things, and it's just, it's when you sit down on this and think, like, how did we get here? It was just lots of little things, but it's actually a massive thing. From following from COVID, just after the first lockdown, we got offered 27 pallets of canned tomatoes, and that was a unique and opportune moment, because I said yes and then went, I've got nowhere to put them. And we managed to find a wee warehouse, and we got them in there, and of course we had no forklifts, so we had to borrow a forklift, and then we managed to get some funding and buy one, and so it's just grown literally like that. But 27 pallets of tomatoes started our warehouse distribution, and then supplying other food banks in the city. And we could see that there was a real niche for that in the city. There was a need for that in a way that wasn't being done. There was other models, but they weren't.
Because other food banks might not have the warehousing or the kind of stuff
to
be able to do that. A lot of
warehouses just have a station wagon car, and they might only be putting 10 or 15 food parcels out a week, some of them.
Yeah.
Others are a lot more. But they only have a small door to go through. So they don't actually need 40 boxes of Weet-Bix. They only need one box of Weet-Bix, which has got 12 lots of 12 Weet-Bix boxes inside it, Yeah. So we worked out that if we break stuff down to smaller, get it in bulk, and then we've teamed up with other agencies and things, and we've got a really good thing going. So we did just short of 300 tonne of food in 87 square metres, which not very much floor space.
Yeah.
The idea is food comes in, it goes out. We're not trying to be a warehouse that stores it.
Yeah.
But you do from time to time get certain things that do hang around a bit longer than others, so we do need some storage. But we've got big walk-in chillers and freezers now. We've got plans to buy bigger ones with our new space. So it's pretty exciting, but it's crazy from just saying yes to 27 pallets of tomatoes. It's a canned tomatoes. I don't think I want to see another can of tomatoes again. But.
True. When Beth started it, obviously she was in the cafe kind of scene, and she could see the waste that they were producing in her space. Did it take much to get other places on board with it?
No, fortunately.
And where's all that food coming from?
Yeah, so good question. Fortunately, the company she worked for, they trained a lot of people in coffee and supplied coffee to other cafes, so she already had good connections. But a lot of cafes, when you talk to them, they're on board. They love it.
Yeah.
Obviously, one thing that's happened since COVID is that the original lockdown things, a lot of people aren't, say, working in town as often, so a lot of the coffee shop trade has dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them have been much more conscious about waste because it's costing them, obviously, and they're trying to look at all their overheads. So some of that food has dropped off, but in saying that, now that a lot of events and things are starting up, we're getting all the catering companies coming back saying, hey, we've got all this extra food left over from our events. So it swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons I did say yes to the 27 pallets of tomatoes, was because I could see that we needed to shift a little bit to keep more food coming through just for the free store.
Yeah.
We take down half a tonne of food roughly a night to the free store to feed over 100 people. So we're actually...
That's a lot of food.
Yeah.
Half a tonne of food,
yeah, it's sort of 400 to 500, 600 kgs depending on what we've got at the time, because it always changes.
Yeah.
And so... that was one of the reasons I kind of said yes, because I could see we needed more food at the free store. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so now you've got the cafes and the catering companies and stuff, but then you're also getting, is it like supermarkets, or like who's providing you with those bulk stuff?
Yeah, so a number of places have got connections into some of the distribution centres and things, but we've also, one of the things MSD, Ministry of Social Development, set up from that COVID is they learnt some things. And because initially it was civil defence did the food, but it shifted under MSD response. And what they did is they set up some organisations. One of the ones they set up was New Zealand Food Network. So they go to your bulk places like your sanitariums, your tuners and growers, things like that, and say, look, if you give us what food you've got in bulk that you don't need anymore, it's short dated, whatever, we'll distribute it out around New Zealand. And so literally they get 40 pallets a week, say, or the 27 pallets of tomatoes now, and they'll go, well, Kairos, you only need 1 pallet of tomatoes, so we'll send you 1, but we'll send the other 27 out round New Zealand. And so they've got networks of freight and different things and distribution. So they're doing more bulk than us. And in the North Island, it's massive because there's a lot of food places up there that make food, manufacturers.
That also stops you having to make personal connections with every supermarket in Christchurch to try and get stuff. It lets you do what you're doing and not have to try and do all this other stuff as well. Yeah,
exactly. And it also, even at that bulk manufacturing level, a lot of that's done and it's arranged and it just turns up, and so we don't have to run around the truck all the time pick it up. So it's saving us, because I say it might be free food, but it actually does cost. It costs to have a warehouse, it costs to pay staff, it costs to repackage food, it costs to lift it off the truck with a forklift, it costs to it does actually cost quite a bit of money logistically to move this food around. So
and so that money's you're getting MSD funding? Or?
MSD funded us certainly, but we've got a person who works on our staff team, puts in funding applications to a whole lot of things. We've had some very generous businessmen in the city. They've just liked what we've done, and literally they've come to us and said, can we sponsor you? We really haven't done much flag flying saying we need money. It's been a phenomenal journey from that perspective.
I'm sure if anyone's listening and has some money sitting around, you'd happily take it.
Yeah, absolutely. We never say no. Of course, you can do your gifting and your tax rebates and that sort of thing. We're a registered charity, so we're always open to that. And a lot of people, I think, they like to give something for a purpose. So we've often got little projects on the go that we need to buy this componentry to do this. Or, we've tried to be very smart as a trust with our assets, and we've, like, for example, got a chiller on a trailer, which when we were buying chillers initially, we got some quotes, we got funded for the quotes, but then we found another person who could do the same but better pricing, and we ended up with extra assets out of that, and now we've got a mobile chiller which we can now hire out to other groups or loan to other food banks in the city, because some of them haven't got money. If they get a whole lot of stuff, they need a chiller. So it's about resourcing other people. It's not just for our empire, but it's also, it could be used as a social enterprise to bring funding back in. So we're always looking at ways we can do that. For example, we're moving into a new building. Rather than physically building lots of offices in there, we're going to convert containers and things. Because then when we know we're not going to be there long term, we can literally take those, and if we move somewhere else where there is offices, we can now sell those. Whereas if we put walls inside the building,
it's dead money.
It's dead money. Yeah. So we're getting a commercial kitchen. It's actually a full commercial kitchen, but it's a trailer, like a food trailer. So although it will sit in one place most of the time, it could be taken out and used at events as fundraising, catering events. It could be used in a civil defence emergency, things like that. We've got a good relationship with them. So there's a whole lot of options for it, but the main reason is not building a commercial kitchen in a building and then, we've got to move, but we can't take it with us. So we're trying to be real smart and real clever with our money.
And when you're taking other people's money that they're giving you to do stuff, that must excite them as well, that this money's getting used well, that they can tell that you're actually being careful with it, that you're thinking well about it. I also love that you've got such a relational focus on, supporting other organisations and having that kind of team mentality as opposed to the competition mentality, which you could so easily have of, like you were saying, the ones who start up a thing going, we don't like the way they do it. Whereas you're going, hey, well, this is how we do it, but actually if they need some help, we've got some stuff we can help. Great, let's do it.
Yeah, we're definitely like with the network in Christchurch, the ones who want to work together are already there. There's some that don't and they choose not to, and that's their problem, not ours. The door's open, and we want to, like, we talk about, if someone has a win, we all win.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about our flag or their flag and who's the highest up the flagpole. We don't see it that way. It sort of saddens me when you hear comments back about another group doesn't want to work with someone else. It's like, why? What's your real, you know? And I think it's more about I don't know, I shouldn't say this, it's probably more about the person and what's on the inside of them than what it is actually. And that, to me, if they don't want to work like that, it's a reflection on them rather than us.
What are some of the moments that you've had that keep you going, yeah, this is a great thing to be doing?
I think it's the stories of the people, and there's some stories I share often, but there was one lady who came down one night because literally she heard there was nice food, but she decided to take her life.
Wow.
And it was going to happen that night. She already had it planned. So she turned up, she got some nice food, because that's what she heard, there was nice food down there. And I mean, let's face it, some of this food from the cafes is pretty nice food. And she got some, but her plans got completely interrupted because someone said, hey, how are you? Or hello, you know. And I think just the talking to people, you know, we have people who come down just to talk to people in the line because we know that that can be an interrupter to some things that are going on, or it takes them away from whatever's going in their life for a moment. They can talk to someone in a normal conversation. They're not arguing with someone or fear of someone and that sort of thing. So for that lady, she's very special to us. She's still around today. She comes down and sees us at different times and hangs out with us, and we make sure we celebrate her birthday well and things like that, because
awesome.
she's very special to us, and just that story, you know, it's just, yeah, it warms me. We got another story of a guy who walked from Addington every night to the Free Store in St Asaph Street. If you're not from Christchurch, it's probably a good 20-minute walk, give or take. And he did that 3 times a week for 4 weeks. And he'd stand across the road and he would just shake with anxiety. His whole body shakes because he didn't want to come to a crowd because of things that had happened to him. And he wanted food, he was hungry, but he didn't know what might or might not happen, you know, just that fear of the unknown. And I can remember that I got introduced to him one night, and I think it was his second or his third night, and he was still shaking with anxiety when I got introduced to him. But long story short, he actually kept coming along, and then he started volunteering, and we met this amazing guy. We've had some really fun times outside of Kairos with him. We've been camping, different things. He's done firewood with me, and just his whole life has been turned around. And he keeps saying, I want to give back what you guys have done for him. And we're like, well, we didn't do much. He goes, you don't realise what you've done. And he shares a story with us. And it's just, it's his story to share. But it's just unreal. But just that connection of food. There's other people that have come in for a very short period of time. We've met them. We've connected them into a budgeting service. And now their life is back to where it was and before they needed the help with that budgeting and things. And it's just that connection, but the stories you hear and the impact it has on people. And I think that goes back to what I said before it's about the people. They're the most important thing, you know. And so for us, we want to create a space that's safe for anyone. There's no judgment. There's no restrictions put on people. And that people can come. And I think that new building really excites us. What we're trying to do is have an indoor space rather than being outdoors in the cold and the rain. We also wanted a place where people can pick the food that they get, because then they feel empowered that they're making some decisions. That we can also, you know, we've had people bring pasta back and say, your chips have gone off. We're like, it's actually pasta, not chips. And they go, no, it looks like chips. And we're like, they said, yeah, we nearly broke our teeth and we're chewing some but trying to chew it. We're like, do you know that it's got to go in water and get boiled? You know, and they're like, no. But then we find out they haven't even got the ability to boil water.
Yeah, so there's no point in them having it, is there?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
So what we want to do with that mobile kitchen I talked about before is that, and this is where we get to walk beside people. Hey, look, there's these 5 different ingredients here tonight. We've got this lady in, she's a chef. She's going to show you how to cook these.
Awesome.
Just on a little wee burner, so that you've got not a full-blown kitchen, but all you need is an element, you can do this, or all you need is a microwave, you can cook this, or, you know, because there is not everyone, but people have some access to something. Another story, it's sort of semi-non-food related, but food's been the tool. When this lady turned up, she's an older lady, she's wrapped up in these most amazing woolen jerseys. It was a freezing cold night, but she'd really dressed well. And we had a gas heater out, and she came and put her hands around it, and she said, "Oh, a heater. Oh, I'd love a heater." And in my naivety, I just went, "Don't you have a heater? Like, what do you mean you don't have a heater, And she said, "Oh, no, I had a fire, but in the earthquakes," and this is about 10 years after the earthquake, so it's quite a wee way down. She said, "My chimney got pushed down by the fire guys, and I've still got a tarpaulin up, but it's sort of the roof's leaking and the sort of things." And I said, "So I believe that you can get a heat pump if your fire was pushed over, or fell over in the earthquakes." And she says, "Oh, yeah, someone talked about that in EQC, man, but it's all, I don't know what's happened." And this is, years later.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I said, "Look, can we connect?" So we connected her into Compassion Trust, the budgeting service, but they connected her straight away into some energy heating group. 3 weeks after that, she had a heat pump installed for $42.
Wow.
That's all it cost her,
wow.
That was what she had to pay. And I just think, it's just little stories like that. That just connecting someone to something to make their life better.
Yeah.
And I actually just the other night saw her, I said, "Oh, how's the heat pump going?" And it's been a year or two now. And she goes, "It's great. I don't use it much, but on those cold nights it's really nice," because she's trying to really budget and survive. Totally. But she knows she can turn it on, and it's better her turning a heat pump on than just a normal scope heater that's going to suck the power, So it's just stories like that. It just spur me on. And so I'm always like, what can we do that's going to be better for these people? What can we do that's going to make the night better? What can we do that could get them more help? And I was even with some seniors from MSD the other day, and I said, when we get our new space, would you guys come and be in there sometimes? So that, because some people won't walk into an MSD office.
Yeah.
But if there's someone there that could say, "Do you know, we've got a guy here, for example, he didn't know he was entitled to a benefit. He was literally living in a house with his brothers. Their mother had died. He didn't know he could get a benefit.
Yeah.
Didn't even know. And we were able to, then we had to help him get a bank account, had to help him get an IRD number. All these things that we kind of all take for granted. He didn't know any of that, didn't have any of that. And so we were able to walk him through all those things. And so if we can have other agencies working in with us, it makes it better. So I'm always dreaming, what can we do better? What can we make better for people to come? What can we make better to give people a hand up?
I love that this all started with some scones getting chucked in a bin.
Yep.
And now you're talking about people not killing themselves and, people being able to heat their homes and, and it really does go to the fact that food is the vehicle for you, not, and there will be people for whom it is a handout. But actually, that's okay as well. Sometimes people just need a handout. But for the people that you've been able to give a hand up, that's just amazing.
Yeah, another story just comes to mind. Is a real recent one, and there's a lovely guy that comes down. I say he's lovely, but he actually stinks real bad, and his hair looks like it's a mop. And but there's this beautiful guy underneath it all. And he said to me, "Oh, do you know where I can get some trimmers to get my, I want to trim my beard and cut my hair?" And straight away, I know this hairdresser in Christchurch, and he's been all around the world, and he cuts people's hair in all the strangest places in the world, and that's his language. And even though he can't communicate with these people, he manages to work out communication that, "Hey, I'll give you a free haircut." And he shared these stories all around the world. And he's in this quite flash up market salon. So it's like, well, what about getting this guy into his salon and to cut his hair? And literally that happened this week on Tuesday.
Awesome.
And so we teed up a time when all the other ladies weren't in the salon and things. And we got this guy in, and he got his hair cut, and he got his beard trimmed, and he's got the smile from one ear to another. And he goes on, he was worried about paying. I said, "No, don't worry, it's all sorted. There's nothing to pay." And so it's connecting, like even situations like that, and even the guy I talked about shaking with anxiety, we got him into that salon as well, and this, hairdresser guy just makes an absolute fuss of them, like no one's ever fussed over them before. And it just like, there's just this, you see these guys' faces change. It's doing something inside them. They feel worthy, they feel valued. Someone's taking an interest in them. Someone's coming near me even when I stink, because they know that. And so it's just great, you know.
And I mean, I hear that story and I go, that's about you and all the others involved here seeing the worth of people, you know, seeing that everybody's valuable, and it doesn't matter if they live on the street or whatever, that everyone has value, and yet our society's not set up to tell people that, you know, that so often those people think they don't have value because that's the message they get from us. And like you say, you know, there's so many of those stories where there's stuff that I take for granted every day, you know, being able to have a beard trim or a haircut or, you know, those kind of things. And not that I've got hair to cut anymore, shave it off every week. But yeah, I just love that heart that, yes, this is about food. Yes, this is about taking food that's getting chucked out and making sure it goes somewhere that can be used. But actually, ultimately, this is about loving people. Yeah. And what more could you do to bring a bit of heaven down to earth than to love people, you know? So, yeah, I mean, thank you so much for taking time to share those stories, to share your story, to tell us a bit about Kairos. If people want to support you, want to get involved, want to even just follow you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so obviously Facebook's a great place to find us. You can message us off that. Otherwise, info@kairosfoodrescue.org.nz. Our website, kairosfoodrescue.org.nz. A lot of people do ask about the Kairos. It is about the unique and opportunity name. It's not actually as in Kai, and they go, who's the Ross? Yeah. But if you want to know how to spell it, it's Kairos, Kairos. Yeah. So if you
probably doesn't hurt that it's got Kai in the name.
No, it works quite well.
Food.
But a lot of people say, I get the who's Kai, Ross? But who's the Ross? Where did Ross come into it?
Yeah, nice. So I'll chuck those in the show notes as well, so people can find those really easily. But yeah, like I say, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for your heart for people and for all that you're doing to help to bring a bit of heaven down to earth.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, hello heaven. Will I hear you whisper to come near?
Kairos are doing such an awesome job alongside many other great organisations in our community. What I love most though is that while it's about food, it's actually about so much more than food. It's about dignity, valuing people, and connecting people to others who can help with what's going on for them, that their life might be better. Stuart, you and the team are amazing and are doing such an important work in our city. Here is a blessing for you. Stuart, as you literally feed others, may your soul be fed as you see the difference you are making in the world. May every person who stands in line at the Free Store or who receives a food parcel to their home know that there is so much aroha behind the food, that this offering is one that says they are worth something, that they mean something to someone, and that maybe life won't always be like this. As you look to work with and support other organisations who are doing good in our city, may you see the great fruit of collaborative action, knowing you are making far more of a difference than you could if you did it alone. May you never let go of the dream that you have, those questions from inside that ask, how can things be better? How can we be better? May your costs always be covered and your needs met, just as you look to meet the needs of others in any way that you can. As you give so much to change life for other people and other families, may your family be a place of flourishing, as those already part of your whānau, along with those you welcome in, live knowing they are valued and loved. And lastly, may you know that you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. Thanks to Strahan for the music and Rangi for the karakia. Join me next time when I talk to Doctors Matt and Alex Wild about their chiropractic clinic in the east of Christchurch, where you pay for treatment on a koha or donation system rather than through set fees. We talk about where they got the idea for a business model like this, how it's going, and the joy they get from seeing people able to access treatment that they usually couldn't afford. Until then, me inoi tātou.
E tō mātou matua I te rangi, kia tapu tō ingoa, kia tau mai tō rangatiratanga, kia mea te tau e pai ai ki runga ki te whenua, kia rite anō ki tō te rangi. Homai kia mātou ai nei, he taro mā mātou mō tēnei rā. Muro mātou hara, me mātou hoki e muru nei I o te hunga, e hara ana kia mātou. Aua hoki mātou e kawea, kia whakawaia, engari whakaorangi a mātou I te kino.